He didn't even know why he walked into the kitchen. It was 11:42 p.m. Everyone else was asleep, but his feet had taken him there like they always did. A quiet fridge door, a half-eaten cake, a fork, no thinking. Ravi wasn't hungry. He was tired, exhausted from another day of saying, "Tomorrow, I'll be better." The same way he said it yesterday, and the day before that. We all have a Ravi in us. That one thing we keep doing, even though we said we'd stop, or that one thing we want to start but never do. Wake up early, stop scrolling, start working out, call our parents, write that book, live with intention, and still, the phone wins, the sugar wins, the bed wins. Every time. Why? We blame motivation. We say, "I'm lazy," or "I lack willpower." But James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits, tells us something different. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. We don't fail because we're weak. We fail because our habits, tiny, invisible, daily actions, are silently shaping who we are. Habits are the architecture of your identity. You brush your teeth every day. Why? Not because you set a goal for it. You just do it. It's part of who you are. Now imagine if the habits that now sabotage you could start serving you instead. What if you didn't need motivation to exercise? What if reading a book felt as easy as watching YouTube? What if progress didn't feel like punishment? This is what Atomic Habits is about. Not grand transformations, not 30-day challenges, but the tiny shifts that change everything, like moving the steering wheel 1 degree and ending up in a different city. Because here's the secret no one talks about. Real change is boring at first, invisible, unsexy. That's why most people quit, because nothing seems to be happening. You go to the gym 3 times and see no difference. You skip dessert once and feel just as heavy. You meditate for a week and still feel anxious. But what you don't see is the compound effect. Just like ice stays solid at 31 degrees Fahrenheit and only melts at 32 degrees Fahrenheit, your efforts are working, even when it seems like nothing's happening. They're building pressure, quietly, patiently, and then one day, snap. The habit sticks, the weight drops, the book gets written, the mind clears, and people call it overnight success. But you'll know the truth. It was just tiny habits, stacked over time, finally revealing their power. In this video, we'll dive into the 6 most important ideas from Atomic Habits. Each one is simple. Each one is practical. And if you apply them, even slowly, your life will begin to shift. Because transformation doesn't start with massive action. It starts with a single, tiny habit. Let's begin. It's not the giant changes that change your life. It's the small ones, the tiny ones, the ones no one sees, the ones you repeat. We often imagine change as something dramatic, a big decision, a bold action, an overnight turnaround. But real, lasting change, the kind that reshapes who you are, almost never happens like that. It's quieter, slower, almost invisible at first. James Clear calls it the power of tiny gains. And once you understand it, you'll never look at small steps the same way again. Let's start with something simple. Imagine this. If you improve just 1% every day, that doesn't sound like much, right? 1% is barely anything. You probably wouldn't even notice the difference from today to tomorrow. But here's what happens when you keep doing it. After 1 year of getting just 1% better every day, you're 37 times better than when you started. That's not a guess. That's math. It's the compound effect in action. And this is the core idea behind Atomic Habits: tiny changes, repeated consistently. Over time, create massive results. But most people don't trust the process. Why? Because in the beginning, nothing seems to change. You eat 1 healthy meal, nothing happens. You go for 1 run, your body looks the same. You read 5 pages, you feel just as stuck. You save a little money, your account still looks sad. and so you quit. Because your brain says, "This isn't working." But what's really happening is simple. You're still in the early phase of compounding. James Clear compares it to heating up an ice cube. Imagine a room at 25 degrees. You start to raise the temperature. 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. Still a solid block of ice. Then, suddenly, 32 degrees. The ice begins to melt. The visible change only happens at that moment. But was the effort before that wasted? Not at all. That slow buildup was essential. It created the pressure for the breakthrough. The same thing happens with your habits. You may not see the results right away, but every tiny improvement is stacking up. Quietly, silently. And one day, something clicks. You wake up with energy. You realize you haven't missed a workout in 3 weeks. You find yourself reaching for a book instead of your phone. You look in the mirror and see progress, not just in your body, but in your mindset. This is the power of tiny gains. It works both ways, too. If you get 1% worse every day, you don't fall off a cliff immediately, but slowly, over time, your life starts to decay. You skip 1 workout. Not a big deal. You skip 2. Still fine. 3, 4. Now it's been a month. Your body feels sluggish. You're tired. Your confidence fades. It's the slow erosion of potential. Tiny losses, compounded over time, create massive setbacks. Just like tiny gains, compounded, lead to breakthroughs. The scary part? It's all invisible while it's happening. No one claps when you show up on time every day. No one notices when you skip dessert once. No one sees you reading quietly every night. But over time, that discipline compounds into identity. You don't just act like a disciplined person, you become one. Because here's the truth. Every action you take is a vote for the kind of person you want to become. That quote from the book ties directly into what comes next. Identity-based habits. But before we go there, let's sit with this. Most people overestimate what they can do in a week and underestimate what they can do in a year. It's easy to get excited and try to change everything overnight. You start a new diet, workout plan, productivity system, sleep schedule, all on Monday, and by Friday, you've crashed. Why? Because sudden change isn't sustainable. But tiny change? It's sustainable. Because it's not threatening. It slides into your life. It grows roots, and before you know it, it becomes who you are. That's why the subtitle of Atomic Habits is so perfect. An easy and proven way to build good habits and break bad ones. Because it is easy. Not because the results come instantly, but because the steps are small. The hard part is trusting the process. Trusting that small gains matter. Trusting that consistency is more powerful than intensity. Trusting that change doesn't have to be loud to be real. There's a reason the book isn't called Massive Habits or Explosive Habits. It's called Atomic Habits, because atoms are small, but they build everything. So now ask yourself, what's one tiny habit you could build today? What's one action so small you can't fail to do it? What's one vote you can cast for the future version of you? Because that's how change begins. Not with pressure, but with repetition. Not with willpower, but with structure. Not with giant leaps, but with tiny, daily steps. And those steps, they don't just change your behavior, they shape your beliefs. The more you act in alignment with the person you want to be, the more you believe that's who you already are. And that leads us to the next core idea, one that transforms habits from actions into identity. Identity-based habits. The key to making change last not just for weeks or months, but for life. He was 19 when the accident happened. A promising baseball player, strong arm, fast reflexes, a future ahead of him. He had just left a teammate's house. It was dark. He was crossing the road. A truck didn't see him. And in one moment, his skull was crushed, his nose shattered, his brain swelled. James Clear was that 19-year-old. He was placed into a medically induced coma. He nearly died. When he woke up, everything was gone. His strength, his energy, his confidence, his routine, his identity. He had to relearn everything. He had to rebuild his life, not with big moves, but with small ones. First step: learn how to sit up. Then walk in a straight line. Later, swing a bat again. It wasn't quick, it wasn't easy, it wasn't dramatic, but slowly, painfully, he came back. Not because of willpower, but because of habits. He started small: 1 push-up, 10 minutes of writing, sleeping at the same time, tracking tiny wins in a notebook. And those small actions didn't just heal his body, they rebuilt his identity. That experience didn't just change James Clear's life, it gave him the insight to write Atomic Habits, a book that would go on to change millions of others. This story isn't about baseball, or accidents, or even trauma. It's about something we all face. How do you rebuild when you feel broken? How do you start again when everything feels hard? How do you grow when the results don't show? How do you become someone new when your old self is holding on? The answer lies in the smallest, quietest, most overlooked thing: habits. Not the habits people preach about on social media. Wake up at 5 a.m., grind all day, chase your dreams. We're talking about real habits. The ones that happen when no one's watching. The ones that seem too small to matter, but matter more than anything. The ones that slowly shape your days, and then your months, and then your years. You see, change doesn't begin with a goal. It doesn't even begin with motivation. It begins with a shift in direction. Just 1%. Just today. James didn't try to go back to being the athlete he was. He didn't aim to be perfect. He aimed to improve just a little. And trust the process. And this idea, this philosophy, became the foundation of his book. The core truth that drives everything else. Small habits, repeated over time, create remarkable results. This brings us to the first pillar of Atomic Habits: the power of tiny gains. If you improve by just 1% every day for a year, you become 37 times better. Not overnight, not dramatically, but undeniably. Because change isn't always visible at first. Just like ice doesn't melt at 31 degrees, but cracks open at 32. Habits work the same way. You show up, you repeat. You get no praise, no applause, no reward. And then, one day, something shifts. You no longer need motivation to go to the gym. You no longer have to force yourself to write. You no longer crave the junk food or the endless scrolling. Why? Because you've changed the trajectory of your life. Quietly, slowly, deeply. That's what James Clear learned. Not in theory, but in pain. In silence. In recovery. In the slow return from nothing. And it's what you can learn too. So many people feel stuck because they think they need to change everything. They think they need to be more disciplined, more focused, more productive. But they don't need to change their life overnight. They just need to change their direction. And that starts with one habit. Not a big one, not a perfect one, a tiny one. 1 push-up, 1 sentence, 1 glass of water, 1 minute of stillness, because these small actions cast a vote for who you're becoming. And once you understand that, once you truly believe that every action is a vote for your future self, you stop chasing perfection, and you start chasing consistency. That's where identity begins to shift. You don't just try to eat healthy. You become someone who eats healthy. You don't just write when you're inspired. You become a writer. You don't just work out. You become an athlete. And it all starts with the smallest step. James Clear's story is powerful because it's real, and because it proves this. Success is the product of daily habits, not once-in-a-lifetime transformations. It's not about one massive moment. It's about what you do when no one is watching, when it's late, when you're tired, when you don't feel like it. That's when it counts. And when you start thinking like that, when you understand that every small action builds pressure, builds momentum, builds identity, you'll stop underestimating small steps and start building a system that carries you forward. In the next section, we'll explore that first idea in more detail. The power of tiny gains. The math, the mindset, and the mechanics behind how small changes lead to massive growth. But remember this, it's not the dramatic moment that defines you. It's the story you live in every day. And that story begins, not with a big decision, but with a tiny habit. You wake up. You check your phone. Not because you plan to, not because it's important, but because you always do. You hear a ping. Your brain lights up. You open the message. You smile. You're not thinking. You're reacting. And that's the thing about habits. They don't ask for permission. They just happen. But they don't happen randomly. They follow a pattern, a loop, a formula that repeats over and over again. And once you understand that pattern, you can learn to change it. This is what James Clear calls the habit loop. The 4 steps every habit follows. Cue, craving, response, reward. These 4 steps explain everything. From brushing your teeth, to checking Instagram, from reaching for a cigarette, to going to the gym. Let's break it down. 1. Cue. The cue is what starts the habit. It's the signal your brain receives. The trigger. It could be anything. A time of day, a feeling, a place, a person, a sound, a smell. Let's say you walk into your kitchen and see a plate of cookies. That's your cue. Your brain says, look, sugar, sweet, comfort. The cue tells your brain something important is about to happen. But the cue by itself isn't enough. Next comes the 2. Craving. This is the desire behind the habit, not for the cookie, but for the feeling the cookie gives you. Cravings are the emotional drivers of habits. We don't crave brushing our teeth. We crave a clean, fresh mouth. We don't crave scrolling. We crave distraction, stimulation, escape. The cue triggers the craving, and the craving pushes us to act. This is where most of the power lives. Because if there's no craving, there's no motivation to respond. So what comes next? 3. Response. This is the action you take. The actual habit. You eat the cookie. You open your phone. You go for a run. It depends on your ability and your motivation. If a habit is too difficult, you might not do it. Even if you crave the result. That's why James Clear teaches to make good habits easy and bad habits hard. The response is what satisfies the craving, or fails to. But if you do act, then the final part of the loop kicks in. 4. Reward. Every habit ends in a reward. It's the benefit your brain remembers. The pleasure, the relief, the satisfaction. It's what tells your brain, hey, that felt good. Let's do that again next time. Rewards are the feedback mechanism of habits. They reinforce the behavior, creating a craving the next time you see the cue. Over time, this loop, cue, craving, response, reward, becomes automatic. It becomes a habit. You no longer think, you just respond. It becomes who you are. Now here's what's powerful. Every habit you have, good or bad, follows this exact loop. Let's look at a few real-life examples. Example 1. Bad habit, checking your phone. Cue, you're bored. Craving, you want stimulation. Response, you pull out your phone and scroll. Reward, you feel distracted, briefly entertained. The next time you feel bored, your brain remembers, the phone helped last time. So the loop repeats. Example 2. Good habit, going for a run. Cue, it's 6 a.m. and your shoes are by the door. Craving, you want energy, you want to feel strong. Response, you go for a short run. Reward, you feel awake, accomplished, alive. Now the next time you see your shoes, your brain says, let's feel good again. That's the loop. And once you see it, you can start to shape it. You can begin to design your habits instead of being ruled by them. James Clear puts it like this: every habit is a solution to a problem. Bad habits are just poor solutions. Smoking solves stress, badly. Scrolling solves boredom, briefly. Overeating solves emotional pain, temporarily. But you can train your brain to seek better solutions. Healthier ones, sustainable ones. And it all starts with the cue. Let's go deeper. If you want to break a bad habit, you need to remove the cue, reduce the craving, make the response hard, make the reward unsatisfying. And if you want to build a good habit, you do the opposite. Make the cue obvious, make the craving attractive, make the response easy, make the reward satisfying. This framework is the backbone of Atomic Habits, and it explains why willpower isn't enough, because habits are about design, not discipline. Here's a real story from the book. A man wanted to lose weight, but he hated the gym. So he started by just driving to the gym, walking inside, staying for 2 minutes, and then leaving. Sounds ridiculous, right? But he did it for weeks. Why? Because he wasn't trying to get fit. Yet. He was building the habit loop. Cue: it's gym time. Craving: I want to follow through. Response: drive and show up. Reward: I did what I said I'd do. Over time, he added more. 10 minutes, then 30, then full workouts. He lost over 100 pounds, not by trying to be a hero, by following the loop. You see, once a habit is locked into your brain, it runs on autopilot. Your brain saves energy by trusting the loop. This is why your bad habits feel hard to break, and why your good ones feel hard to start. But now you understand the code. Now you see the pattern. And in the next part of this journey, we'll explore how to design habits that actually stick, by aligning them with your identity, making them obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying. But remember this: you do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems, and your systems begin with the loop. Cue, craving, response, reward. Master this loop, and you can master yourself. By now, you've learned something powerful. Every habit, good or bad, follows a loop. Cue, craving, response, reward. That's the blueprint. But the real question is this: how do you use that blueprint to create real change in your life? How do you actually build a habit that lasts, or break one that's holding you back? That's where the 4 laws of behavior change come in. James Clear designed these laws to help you do exactly that. They are simple, they are practical, and they work. Let's begin. Law 1. Make it obvious. The first law is about the cue. If you want a habit to happen, you have to see it clearly. Most people fail to build habits because their triggers are hidden. They say they want to work out more, but their shoes are in the closet. They want to drink more water, but there's no bottle on their desk. They want to read more, but the book is buried under clothes. Here's the truth: you can't change a habit you can't see. So James Clear teaches us to make the cues obvious. Put the guitar in the middle of your room. Lay out your workout clothes the night before. Place a book on your pillow so you see it before bed. Want to take it further? Use something called habit stacking. After I, current habit, I will, new habit. Example: after I make coffee, I will meditate for 1 minute. After I brush my teeth, I will stretch for 30 seconds. This ties your new habit to a habit you already have. It creates a clear, visible, powerful signal. Because if your habit doesn't start with clarity, it won't start at all. Law 2. Make it attractive. Now that you've seen the cue, your brain looks for a reward. This is the craving phase. And the stronger the craving, the more likely you are to follow through. But here's the problem. Good habits often don't feel fun at first. Working out hurts. Eating clean feels boring. Waking up early feels like punishment. So how do you stick with something that doesn't feel instantly good? You make it attractive. And you do that through something called temptation bundling. Pair something you want to do with something you need to do. For example, only watch your favorite Netflix show while running on the treadmill. Only listen to your favorite podcast while cleaning the kitchen. Only check social media after you've read 5 pages of a book. You make the habit more desirable by tying it to something you enjoy. You train your brain to look forward to the habit. Over time, the craving builds naturally, because now the habit isn't a chore, it's a reward, and once you want to do it, you don't need willpower. Law 3. Make it easy. We've had the cue. We've felt the craving. Now comes the response, the action itself. Here's where most people mess up. They try to do too much, too fast. They go from never running to planning a marathon. They go from junk food to green smoothies every meal. They go from no writing to trying to finish a novel in 1 month. It doesn't work, because the truth is, habits aren't built by intensity. They're built by consistency. And to be consistent, the habit must be easy. James Clear teaches us to reduce the friction. Make the habit so small, so simple, that you can't fail. Read 1 page. Do 1 push-up. Meditate for 1 minute. You don't rise to the level of your ambition. You fall to the level of your system. And the best system is the one that's so easy, it becomes automatic. Because once a habit is easy to start, it's easier to grow. You build the muscle. You build the pattern. And eventually, you build momentum. And once you have momentum, you're already winning. Law 4. Make it satisfying. Now we reach the final stage of the loop, the reward. This is what tells your brain, that was good, let's do it again. But here's the challenge. Good habits usually have long-term rewards, but short-term pain. Going to the gym pays off weeks later. Eating healthy shows results slowly. Saving money feels boring now, but wise later. So how do you convince your brain to keep going? You make the habit instantly satisfying. You create a small positive feeling right after completing the habit. That might mean checking off a habit tracker, celebrating with a fist pump, saying, "I did it," out loud, watching your streak grow. The key is to reward yourself immediately after the habit, because that's when your brain is paying attention. Without satisfaction, your brain won't want to repeat it, but with it, the habit starts to stick, because now it feels good to follow through. Let's pause and review. These 4 laws follow the same flow as the habit loop. Cue. Make it obvious craving. Make it attractive response. Make it easy reward. Make it satisfying. And if you want to break a bad habit, you do the opposite. Make it invisible. Make it unattractive. Make it difficult. Make it unsatisfying. That's the formula. That's the system. That's the power. You don't need to be more disciplined. You don't need more motivation. You just need a better design. Because the real magic of habits isn't about force. It's about flow. It's about building an environment, a rhythm, a system that works for you, not against you. Let me leave you with this idea. Every time you complete a habit, you're casting a vote for who you want to become. A vote for health. A vote for discipline. A vote for growth. It's not about being perfect. It's about being intentional. 1 cue at a time. 1 craving at a time. 1 response at a time. 1 reward at a time. That's how change happens. In the next part of this journey, we'll explore how to shape your environment, build better systems, and design a life where the good habits are easy, and the bad ones fade away. But for now, remember this. Habits don't change your life overnight. They change your life direction, and once the direction is right, the destination will follow. Willpower is a lie, not because it doesn't exist, but because it's not reliable. You felt this before. You start the day strong, motivated, focused, ready to change, but then life happens. A long meeting, a bad mood, a craving you didn't expect, and suddenly, you break. You say yes to the donut. You skip the gym. You waste an hour scrolling even though you promised you wouldn't. And later, you blame yourself. You think, I just don't have enough willpower. But the truth is, it's not your fault. It's your environment. Because in the battle between discipline and design, design always wins. Let's explore this. The invisible force that shapes you. Think about a fish in water. It doesn't notice the water. It just swims through it, reacts to it, lives in it. That's how we are with our environment. We don't always see it, but it surrounds us. It pushes us. It nudges us. It shapes our behavior every day. The foods in your fridge, the apps on your phone, the people in your house, the layout of your room. These little details, the things around you, have more power over your actions than your goals ever will. Here's the key idea. You don't rise to the level of your motivation. You fall to the level of your environment. Why willpower fails. Let's say you're trying to eat healthy, but your kitchen is full of chips, cookies, and soda. Every time you walk in, the cue hits you. Your brain remembers the taste, the reward, the comfort. You feel the craving. You want the reward. Now your willpower is in a fight it didn't ask for, and no matter how strong your intentions are, if the cue is always in front of you, eventually it wins. That's not weakness. That's design, because your brain is wired to take the easy option, and your environment offers that option again, and again, and again. You can try to resist, but resistance is a battle, and battles drain energy, and when energy drops, old habits win. So what's the smarter move? Don't fight the environment. Change it. Design makes good habits. Easy. Want to stop drinking soda? Don't keep it in the house? Want to read more books? Put one on your pillow every morning? Want to write more? Leave your journal open on your desk. It sounds small, and it is, but it works, because your brain responds to what it sees. If the cue is visible, the habit becomes likely. If the cue is hidden, the habit starts to fade. Let's look at some examples. If you want to play more guitar, don't leave it in the case. Hang it on the wall. If you want to drink more water, put a bottle where you can see it, not in a cupboard. If you want to eat better, prep healthy meals and leave them at eye level. The less effort it takes to start a habit, the more likely it becomes, and environment removes the friction. Friction works both ways. James Clear gives us a powerful trick. Increase friction for bad habits. Decrease friction for good ones. Here's what that means. If you want to do something less, make it harder. Move apps off your home screen. Unplug the TV after each use. Don't buy snacks you're trying to avoid. Keep your phone in another room while working. Every extra step creates a pause, and sometimes that pause is all you need. And if you want to do something more, make it easier. Put gym clothes near the bed. Keep your journal on your desk. Leave your to-do list visible. No motivation needed, just access. Just smart design. Environment shapes identity. There's another layer to this. Your surroundings don't just shape your habits, they shape your identity. When you walk into a clean kitchen, you feel like a clean, organized person. When your desk is tidy, you think like someone who takes work seriously. When your bookshelf is full, you feel like a reader, a learner. Environment speaks to your brain. It whispers, "This is who you are." And when that message is repeated enough, you believe it. So design your space to match your future, even in small ways, because every habit is a vote for the type of person you want to become. And your environment is either helping you vote or making you forget. The power of default choices. Look around your life. What's easy to do? What's automatic? Most of us live by default. We go where the chair faces. We eat what's on the counter. We respond to what's in front of our eyes. So here's the truth. You don't need more control. You need better defaults. Default to healthy snacks on the table. Default to calming music when you wake up. Default to a notebook next to your bed. Default to silence during deep work. Because once a habit becomes part of the environment, you no longer need to think about it. It just happens. And that's the real goal of habit change. To stop relying on memory or motivation, and start building systems that work even on your worst days. Environment and social influence. Let's take it one step further. Your environment isn't just physical, it's also social. The people around you, they shape your behavior more than you realize. If your friends eat junk food, you're more likely to join in. If your coworkers waste time, it feels normal to slack off. If your family avoids exercise, working out feels weird. But the reverse is also true. When you surround yourself with people who live the way you want to live, habits become contagious. Join a book club if you want to read. Train with people stronger than you. Eat with friends who value health. Talk to people who value growth. You rise, or fall, with the group you're in, because the strongest pull on your habits is the desire to fit in. So choose your tribe carefully, because your identity follows your environment. Final thoughts. Design wins. Here's what it all comes down to. Willpower is like a battery. It drains. Environment is like a path. It guides. If you design your environment well, you don't have to fight temptation. It just doesn't show up. You don't have to be strong, just smart. So ask yourself, what can I remove from my space that leads to bad habits? What can I add that makes good habits easier? Who am I surrounded by? And what are they normalizing? Because small changes in your surroundings lead to big shifts in your future. Remember, you shape the environment, and then the environment shapes you. And if you build a space that makes the right habits obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying, you won't need to force change. You'll live it. You already have habits, some good, some not so good, but they're there, buried in your day, flowing automatically without thought. Wake up, check your phone, make coffee, scroll, shower, dress, leave. You don't think about these actions. You just do them. Because that's what habits are, automatic behaviors built through repetition. And here's the secret. If you want to build a new habit, you don't have to start from scratch. You just have to attach it. That's what James Clear calls habit stacking. And it changes everything. The problem with starting from zero. Most people think change means creating new routines out of thin air. They say, I want to start journaling. I should meditate every morning. I need to stretch more. But where does it fit? When do you do it? How do you remember? This is why so many habits die before they begin. Not because the habit is hard, but because it has no place to live. It's floating, disconnected, easy to forget. But imagine this instead. You don't start new. You build on something you already do. That's habit stacking. What is habit stacking? Here's how it works. You take a habit that's already part of your daily routine, and you stack a new habit on top of it. James Clear explains it simply. After I, current habit, I will, new habit. That's it. It sounds small. It sounds simple. But it works like magic. Because the old habit becomes the trigger. It acts like a signal to your brain. Now it's time to do this. Why it works so well. Let's go deeper. Every habit begins with a cue, a trigger that starts the loop. The problem is, when you try to build a new habit, you don't have a reliable cue, so your brain doesn't know when to act, and you forget. But when you use a habit you already do, you never need to wonder when the new one should happen. You brush your teeth? Now, stretch for 30 seconds. You make coffee? Now, write down one thing you're grateful for. You finish dinner? Now, take a short walk. This builds rhythm, flow, consistency, and soon your brain stops asking. It just knows what comes next. Examples of habit stacking. Let's look at how this works in real life. After I brush my teeth, I will floss one tooth. After I pour my morning coffee, I will meditate for 1 minute. After I take off my shoes, I will put my phone in a drawer. After I sit on the bed at night, I will write 1 sentence in my journal. Notice something. These are small. They don't take time. They don't need willpower. But they're powerful because they're connected to something stable. And stability breeds success. Designing your habit stack. Here's how to build your own. 1. Make a list of your current habits. These are things you already do. No effort needed. Waking up, brushing teeth, making tea, checking email, locking the door. 2. Decide what habit you want to add. Something small, something meaningful. It could be reading, reflecting, breathing, stretching, cleaning. 3. Use this formula. After I, current habit, I will, new habit. Let's say you want to drink more water. You already start the coffee machine every morning. So, stack it. After I start my coffee, I will drink 1 glass of water. It fits, it flows, it sticks, because it lives inside your life, not outside it. The importance of timing and location. For a habit stack to work, it needs to be specific. If your cue is vague, like sometime after lunch, your brain will ignore it. But if it's tied to a real, concrete action, it sticks. Even better, tie it to both time and place. After I sit at my desk in the morning, I'll write down my top 3 priorities. After I put on my running shoes at the door, I'll stretch for 60 seconds. After I close my laptop, I'll take 3 deep breaths. When your brain sees the cue and the environment, it gets sharper. The connection becomes stronger. The habit becomes easier. Stacking multiple habits. Once you get comfortable, you can stack multiple habits in a row. Let's say your goal is a strong morning routine. You could design, after I wake up, I will make my bed. After I make my bed, I will drink water. After I drink water, I will meditate. After I meditate, I will journal. After I journal, I will stretch. This creates a domino effect. Each habit triggers the next. Each win builds momentum. And momentum builds belief. You're not just changing actions, you're changing who you are. Building identity through stacks. Every time you complete a habit, even a tiny one, you're casting a vote for the kind of person you want to be. You're not just writing in a journal. You're becoming someone who reflects. You're not just stretching. You're becoming someone who takes care of their body. You're not just cleaning the desk. You're becoming someone who values clarity. And the more stacks you build, the more that identity gets real. Habit stacking isn't just about efficiency. It's about identity. It's about living the life you want. 1 small step at a time. Using habit stacking to break bad habits. Here's a twist. You can also use habit stacking to interrupt bad habits. If you notice yourself always doing something you regret, stack a different action before it. For example, before I open social media, I'll take 3 deep breaths. Before I turn on the TV, I'll write 1 sentence in my notebook. Before I open the fridge at night, I'll drink a glass of water. This adds a layer of awareness. It gives your brain a chance to choose differently. You're not fighting the bad habit. You're inserting a pause before it takes over. And sometimes a pause is all it takes to shift direction. The real power of habit stacking. What makes habit stacking powerful isn't the size of the habits. It's the connection between them. You're not relying on motivation. You're not waiting for the right time. You're letting your current life carry the new habits forward. And that's why it works. Because life is already moving. Your habits already have rhythm, and all you're doing is adding to the beat. You don't need to force change. You just link it. 1 moment at a time. 1 connection at a time. 1 new identity. Step by step. So now you've learned how to use the habit loop to understand behavior. Apply the 4 laws to build habits smarter. Design your environment to support success. And now, stack habits into your existing routine, so they stick. From here, we'll go even deeper. In the next section, we'll explore how to break bad habits, not through punishment or guilt, but through smart design, self-awareness, and reverse engineering your behavior. But for now, remember this. You don't need a perfect routine. You just need the right anchor. And habit stacking, that's your anchor. One tiny step, built on what already exists, is all it takes to build a brand new life. So now you know. Change doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't need a big announcement. It doesn't require perfect motivation or willpower. It just needs a place to begin. And habit stacking gives you that place. One moment, one anchor, one small action at a time. Because this is how real change happens. Not in giant leaps, but in quiet links. You've learned about the power of small gains, how habits follow a loop, why your environment shapes behavior, and how the 4 laws of behavior change make habits stick. But none of that works without consistency. And consistency is born when new habits have something stable to hold on to. That's what stacking gives you. Structure, stability, simplicity. So here's your moment. Your cue. Look at the routines already flowing through your day. They're everywhere. They're waiting for you to build something new, on top of something old. You don't need to wait for Monday. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to begin where you already are. Pick one habit, pick one anchor, stack them. Make it small, make it real, repeat. That's how you shift your identity. That's how you become the kind of person who keeps going, who shows up, who becomes. Not by force, but by design. You're not just stacking habits. You're stacking a new life one quiet win at a time. Let's keep building.